Ok, hola a todos. Ahora estamos en la lección número 4, capítulo 4 en Panorama, y vamos a estar hablando acerca del pasatiempos, deportes, fines de semana. So, pasatiempos, pastimes, hobbies, deportes, sports, fines de semana, weekends. So there is a lot of vocabulary in this lesson. A lot of it are just things that will enable you to talk and to listen, to understand about what people are doing. So for casual conversations, this will be very important. We're going to go through this basic pronunciation. I'll try to give you some tips as I see different things that might help you to learn faster what the word means. I will tell you in this first lesson on the left, the first vocabulary list, most of these words are non-native Spanish words, and so they're written the way they would be pronounced in Spanish. So that may help you. But when you look at them, you probably will be able to identify 75% of them just by looking at them. And the key is to pronounce it correctly so that somebody can understand you when you're talking back to them. So, clase, repitan, por favor. El béisbol. El ciclismo. El esquí. Acuático. So a ski can be for snow skiing, and you could say de nieve. Nieve is a word for snow. El esquí de nieve, el esquí acuático, water skiing, snow skiing. El fútbol americano. Yeah, obviously, most of you, I'm sure, are very aware that when you say football in most other places besides the US, they're talking soccer. And so football is soccer, fútbol americano is American football. And sometimes they'll even think rugby is becoming much more popular in Spanish-speaking countries. So sometimes they'll confuse rugby with American football. But don't just be calling football if you're talking about touchdowns and tackling. El golf. El hockey. Hockey is an interesting one because it's written the way it's spelled in English, but if you're pronouncing it in Spanish, you'll say hockey. But because we say hockey, you're going to pronounce it as if it were that hard J sound in Spanish, so el hockey. La natación. El voleibol. Notice that baseball and volleyball are written the way phonetically in Spanish to be pronounced, as we would say it in English. El equipo. El parque. El partido. La plaza. Andar en patineta. Andar is a word in Spanish that just means to travel or to go. And patineta refers to a skateboard or wheels. So to skateboard is to travel on a skateboard. Bucear, to scuba dive. Escalar montañas. Okay, escalar means to scale or to go up like in a stairs, a similar word. So escalar montañas would be mountain climbing. Then we have esquiar, which is a verb form of to ski. Ganar, to win. Ir de excursión, to go on a trip, to go on a hike, to go on a journey, really is what that's saying. Practicar deportes. In Spanish, we don't really jugar deportes as much as we practicar deportes. It doesn't even mean to practice like I'm going to football practice. It means it's like saying I practice cycling. I practice sports. Escribir una carta. So these are past times, right? To write a letter. Un mensaje electrónico. And you'll hear also email. Mándame un email. Leer correo electrónico, to read an email. Leer, we already know it means to read. Leer una revista. Revista is magazine. And deportivo, deportiva. Those are adjectives of something that is sports related. You could say, por ejemplo, es un equipo deportivo. Equipo means team, deportivo sports related, so it's a sports team. Or mi equipo deportivo favorito son los Arizona Diamondbacks. Okay, debajo ahí en variación léxica, the word for swimming pool, for example, changes by different regional countries. So piscina is a very common word. In Argentina, South America, Uruguay, we say pileta, which would be a word for a pool. Also interesting enough, it's also the word for a font. And so in different churches that use fonts for religious purposes, pileta is also the word for that. And in Mexico, they say alberca. So some of you that are native heritage Spanish speakers, if your parents are from Mexico or from Central America, alberca may be the word that you've grown up with for a swimming pool. Also, baloncesto is the equivalent bal, would be from the word ball, right? And cesto is the word for net. So baloncesto is what originally basketball was called before everybody started calling it basketball, which is just more colloquial, again, written the way it's pronounced in English. And same with baseball. In Puerto Rico and La República Dominicana, where a lot of amazing baseball players come from, they just call that pelota, which is just the word for ball. Okay, so there's some different regional variations of different words. And then más vocabulario, so repeat after me. La diversión comes from the English word diversion. It's diverting, it's fun, it's entertainment. It's just a general word for entertainment. El fin de semana, the end of the week. El pasatiempo, pastime or hobby. Los ratos libres. Ratos just means a short period of time. You'll hear people say momentos libres, en mi tiempo libre, so in my spare time, free time. Videojuego, la iglesia, word for church. El lugar, that's another, when we talk about that linking, you have a word that ends with an L, the next one starts with an L, so el lugar. Ver películas, to watch movies. We don't, the verb for to watch in Spanish is mirar. We use ver to see movies instead of watch movies. Veo películas, me gusta ver películas. And then el adjetivo favorito and favorita, okay? So some vocabulary. Again, I said there's a lot. So in this one, I have on the slide, there are recordings in Panorama for each of these words. And I'm not going to play them all for you, but these are the words you're going to be responsible for in this section. Again, the first one is one we just went through. Then there are more for different sports, more adjectives, different places, lugares, the one in blue, and then verbs that you're going to want to know. So I'm going to skip to right ahead to lugares and verbos. We're going to go over the pronunciation for those, but you'll want to hear them. You want to make sure you're pronouncing them correctly. If you look at just the PowerPoint presentation that's attached below the lesson, I have this slide and it's got 5 different speakers where you can go back and actually listen to the audio from Panorama for each of those vocabulary. So we're going to switch to lugares. That's the third column over, the one in blue. So clase repitan, el café. Café also means to drink coffee. So café is a place where one would go to drink coffee. So café is a drink as well as a café. El centro, we've had that word before. Center of the town, el downtown. El cine, that's the movie theater. El gimnasio, la iglesia. El lugar, el museo. El parque, la piscina, la plaza, el restaurante. Notice in restaurante, you have that AU combination, that diphthong, and you got to pronounce both of them. Don't say restaurante, restaurante. It's got that big ow sound in it. Under verbos, clases repitan, almorzar. Now notice that these, in parentheses, have, if it's an irregular verb, we talked about stem changing verbs when we talked about venir and tener. So these, if it's got these letters in parentheses, it's telling you it's a stem changing verb. So en almorzar, in the stem changing part, the O changes to UE. Okay, so that verb is yo almuerzo, tú almuerzas, él, ella, usted almuerza. Nosotros almorzamos, vosotros almorzáis, ustedes almuerzan. So these are what we talked about called boot verbs. It's just the first person, second person, third person singular, and third person plural. So if you look at the verb tree, the whole left column and the bottom right column, it looks like a boot if you were to circle those squares on the verb tree. So stem changing boot verbs, almorzar. Casi repitan, cerrar, to close. You'll see on doors in Spanish, abierto o cerrado. Abierto means open, cerrado is closed, and that's where this comes from. Comenzar, to commence or to begin. Again, there's a cognate, there's a visual cognate. You can see the word commence in that word. Conseguir, to get or to obtain. Contar, Contar means to tell or to count. So you can contar a story to somebody. You can contar números, ¿verdad? So you can count numbers, you can recount or tell a story or an event. Decir. Decir we talked about means to tell, and that E goes to I. It's a little bit irregular in the yo form. Dormir. Think of the word dormitory. That's where you sleep. Dormir, to sleep. And stem changing UE. Yo duermo. Tú duermes. Usted, él, ella duerme. Nosotros dormimos. Vosotros dormís. Ustedes, ellos, ellas duermen. Empezar, to begin. Encontrar, like the English word encounter. You encounter something, you find it. Encontrar, to find. Entender, to understand. Hacer, to make or to do. And again, that's not the verb, that's a helping verb, right? We don't say, I do go to the store. This is to do, to physically do something. I do my homework. I do my assignments. Not I do as in yes. Ir, to go. I will have that in our next lesson. We'll be all about the verb ir. Jugar, to play, and that's them changing UE. Yo juego, tú juegas, usted, él, ella juega. Nosotros jugamos, vosotros jugáis. Ustedes, ellos juegan. Mostrar, to show. Oír, to hear. Sorry, I'm going too fast. Not be able to repeat. I'm sorry. Repitan, pedir, to ask for. Pensar, to think. If you're a Harry Potter fan like I am, the pensive is where they take their thoughts out, right? That's pensar, to think. Pensar en, to think about. Perder, to lose. Perder. Poder, to can or to be able to. And again, that's the stem changing UE. Yo puedo, tú puedes, usted, él, ella puede. Nosotros podemos, vosotros podéis, ustedes, ellos pueden. Se repitan, preferir, querer, also stem changing, recordar, repetir, you've heard that one by now, salir, seguir. Remember that U after a G just makes that G have a hard sound. So we don't say seguir. The U after a G is only silent, and after a Q is only really silent letters in Spanish. So that U is just there to make the G have the G sound, seguir. Suponer, traer, ver, and volver, okay? So again, just some pronunciation on some verbs, work through your vocabulary will be so helpful in being able to communicate with people. So I'm going to skip the different pronunciations. Like I said, they'll be there on the PowerPoint. Okay, now you're going to number your papers from 1 through 6. There's a little práctica here. I'm going to read a sentence about a sport in Spanish, and you're going to match it with A through H. There will be 2 that are not used, okay? So don't freak out when you have 2 letters left over. So number your papers 1 through 6, pause, come back, I'll go slowly. You listen to my sentence and you write which question or which answer, A through H, best matches what I'm asking you. Número 1. No me gusta nadar, pero paso mucho tiempo al lado de la piscina. No me gusta nadar, pero paso mucho tiempo al lado de la piscina. Número 2. Alicia y yo vamos al estadio a las 4. Creemos que nuestro equipo va a ganar. Número 3. Me gusta practicar voleibol, béisbol, esquiar y practicar tenis. Número 4. El ciclismo es mi deporte favorito. Número 5. Me gusta mucho la natación. Paso mucho tiempo en la piscina. Número 6. Mi hermana es una gran excursionista. Mi hermana es una gran excursionista. Okay? If you didn't finish, pause, rewind, go through those, but let's go through the answers together. Número 1, no me gusta nadar, pero paso mucho tiempo al lado de la piscina. Es tomar el sol. To tan, to sunbathe, tomar el sol. Número 2, Alicia y yo vamos al estadio a las 4. Creemos que nuestro equipo va a ganar. Ir a un partido de fútbol americano. D. Número 3, me gusta practicar voleibol, béisbol, esquiar y practicar tenis. F, practicar muchos deportes. Número 4, el ciclismo es mi deporte favorito. Letra C, pasear en bicicleta. Número 5, me gusta mucho la natación. Paso mucho tiempo en la piscina. G, nadar, to swim. Y número 6, mi hermana es una gran excursionista. H, ir de excursión. Okay, so just by putting these together, you can start to be able to explain to people what you do, what you enjoy doing, and understand as you're talking to build relationships to people, asking what they enjoy. And as they tell you, you'll be able to understand what they're saying. Okay, this is the last exercise. You're going to number your papers again, 1 through 8. And you're going to tell where these places would take place. There are more than one answer, obviously, so we'll just go through. But tell me, for example, the modelo, esquiamos es una montaña, right? So skiing is going to take place in a mountain, for example. So 1 through 8, and just put an example, a complete sentence. So mostly you're going to use the verb es, just to say it is a park, it's a cafe, whatever it is, okay? So pause, come back when you're done, and we'll look at some potential answers. Okay, muy bien. Número 1, tomamos una limonada. Es un café, es un restaurante, es la casa de mi mamá. So where would you drink a lemonade? Algún lugar, someplace. Número 2, vemos una película. Es un cine. Es la casa de mi hermano. Es en la sala, the living room. Es en el teatro que tenemos en la casa. Just any place where you are going to see a movie. Número 3, nadamos y tomamos el sol. Es una piscina. Es una alberca. Es un parque. Número 4, hay muchos monumentos. Where would that take place? Es un parque. Es una ciudad. Son just options, ¿verdad? Número 5, comemos tacos y fajitas. Es un restaurante. Es la casa de mi abuela, ¿verdad? Número 6, miramos pinturas de Diego Rivera y Frida Kahlo. Es un museo, for example, right? Paintings from Diego Rivera and Frida in a museum. Número 7, hay mucho tráfico. Es una ciudad. Es el centro de la ciudad, where there'll be a lot of traffic. Número 8, practicamos deportes. Es un gimnasio, es un parque, es un estadio, right? Different places where you would practice different sports, okay? So again, just putting together different concepts of where things can take place. Okay, this is just a reminder in ¿cómo se llama el libro? Panorama. On this page 115, there's a review of different things of vocabulary. And I've assigned the práctica that's down here on the bottom to help you to go through that. So that's to be one of your tareas, one of your homework assignments on the super site for this week. But I just want you really to review this because now you've got enough basis for Spanish to put everything together. We talk about every Spanish syllable has at least one vowel in it, right? So the words are broken up. Generally, there are rules of when, depending on the ending of a word, of how that word is pronounced, which syllable is going to get the emphasis. And then when we break that rule, we have to add an accent to break that rule. Accents are also used for words that are pronounced the same, but to give a different meaning. And we've covered some of those examples, but let's go through these just really quickly. So we have película. Words that end in A or a vowel are typically have an accent on the second to the last syllable. Think of most all of your verbs, right? Como, comes, or come. If it ends in a vowel, it's the second to the last syllable. In película, we break that rule because now it's the third from the end syllable. And so because we're breaking the rule, we have to put that accent on there. So as we do quizzes, as you do assignments, that's why we're taking off if the accent's on the correct part because it's not pronounced correctly and it's a whole different wrong word. Next one, it ends in a vowel, so the accent should be on the second to last syllable. Edificio. Then we have words that are just one syllable long. Ver, yo. Okay, when it so the rules are if it ends in a vowel or N or S. And now that you can think of your conjugation for verbs, right? Those are the two consonants that verbs end in. Then the accent becomes on the second to the last syllable. So we have words like biblioteca, visitar. When you have an infinitive for your vowel or for your verb, it ends in a consonant that's not N or S. So the accent goes on the last syllable. So we're R, which is not N or S. So all infinitives have the accent on the last syllable. Visitar. Parque ends in a vowel, so it's second to the last. Fútbol ends in a consonant that's not N or S. So we have to break the rule by adding an accent to it. So if we didn't have an accent, it'd be fútbol. But that's not when we say it in English, football, we send the foot part. So that's to make it pronounced in Spanish like it would be in English. We have to break the rule by adding a written accent. Third column, pelota ends in an A, right? Second to last. Piscina ends in an A, second to last. Ratos ends in an S, second to last. Hablan ends in an N, second to last. So if it ends in a vowel, an N, or an S, it gets accented automatically on the second to the last syllable, unless that rule is broken. So then we go on the next line. We have exceptions. Natación. All words that end in ION in Spanish have an accent on the O because that is breaking the rule. If it ends in an N, it should be natación, but it's not. It's natación. So we break the rule of ending in an N by putting the accent on the O to make it stressed on the last syllable. Papa, if you say papa, so if you have a no accent, you're saying potato. Or you're saying pope, like the pope. But papa, which means dad or daddy, you have to break the rule by adding an accent to the last A. Otherwise, it's papa. Inglés, usually we say that words that end in S gets an accent on the second to the last syllable. But we're breaking the rule for inglés. There is the word inglés, which means groin. And so we don't want to confuse groins with English. And so we have a different word. So if you're writing the word English and you put no accent on the E, it's not a wrong spelling, it's the wrong word. You put the word anyway. So that's why accents are important. José ends in a vowel, but it's not José, it's José. So we break the rule and we add a written accent. Okay, then we have the examples. Bailar, Español, universidad, trabajador. Those all ends in consonants that are not N or S. So the accent automatically comes on that last syllable. All right, and then words that don't end N or S or a vowel, if you want the accent to be on the second to last syllable, you have to break the rule. Béisbol, lápiz, árbol, Gómez. All those words we want accented to be pronounced correctly on the second to the last syllable, which in this case is the first syllable. But the rule is always to count backwards, second to the last. Okay, so when you get to Supersight, you'll do this práctica here, pronouncing these words to record and to hear yourself pronounce these words with the accent on the proper place. All right, and that's it. That's what we have for today. Good job. Again, there's a lot of vocabulary, so take it slow. Look at the words. You'll be able to figure out what they mean and learn the ones that you are going to use the most often. And we'll go from there. Thanks, guys.